It's time for a new water tile. I want to improve my maps for D&D even further, using Lego of course. And water has been a challenging task for me. So I started out with these very simple water tiles because I had these colors lying around, and so it was a sensible start. Then I upgraded to these translucent, darker water tiles that I really like, but one thing that particularly annoys me about this water is that it's flat with the rest of the map. And usually you would expect water, either if it's a pond, a lake, the sea, to be quite lower, so I wanted to give the water some more depth. The idea for building tiles on different heights is not new to me. The first time I experimented with tiles that are not the same height and not just putting stuff on top of them was with a grave for a graveyard I did in one of my earliest games using Lego maps for Dungeons & Dragons. And this grave side was quite easy to do. I had a lot of brown tiles and gray tiles for the sides lying around, so it was not a very challenging task. Then, a couple of months back, I wanted to build a trap, a lava pit that I could cover up, and then once in a special situation, in a fight, I could open up that tile to have that pit for players to fall into. But that was still mildly easy to do because it was just one tile. I made the tile a little bigger than my standard tiles just to be able to have the sides as stable as possible, but still it was just this one tile. But for water that usually flows somewhere, I wanted to do something else. I wanted to be able to connect different tiles and have something like a river flowing through my map. I like the idea of using water, swamps, and elevation as kind of a difficult terrain, or to break up the maps into different sections so it's not super easy in a fight to just move around without obstacles, either for the players as well as the monsters and enemies. So this river tile brought up a new challenge for me, because this time around it couldn't have walls on all the four sides. So it didn't really fit into my standard grid. I still wanted to stick with the 8x8 plates that are used in my standard tiles, and not the bigger ones, the 16x16, as that would A, be very expensive to do for a river, and also B, it would make the whole setup of the map more difficult. I wanted something that fits into one tile and that still has that elevation difference. So the river couldn't be too broad, or at least in this version it couldn't be, because it needed to stick to this 8x8 plate. But it needed to be open on at least two sides. Pretty early on in the design process I decided on having two versions, one curve of the river and one straight line. I'm not particularly too fond of just these straight lines, as they can become very strict and structured on a map, and I like the more organic feel, because the chessboard style and the squareness of Lego already gives it this rigid feeling, and I try to do a lot to make it feel more organic. So having that in mind, these curves and these straight pieces, I needed a new way to connect them. The good thing with a river is that it's mostly surrounded by land, so I wasn't too worried about them not sticking to each other too strongly, because I was banking on the side pieces on the rest of the map to hold them together. But still I wanted something that would connect them. So the first time I experimented with this was on a live stream on this channel, and it was very helpful to get your guys' input on the design as well very early on in the process. Usually I build something, I might share it on Discord or on the community tab here on the YouTube channel, or in a video, but getting feedback then is always pretty late into the process. So this time we just started with this rough idea and then tried it out in a live stream, and I had really a lot of fun doing that. So what we came up with are these 1x1 pieces with a hole in them to have on the sides of the wall to connect the pieces. And I think they work quite well because they fit the other connectors I'm using, and it's not like a super new concept. I was first trying out like these 1x1s with the stud on them, on the side, these knot bricks. But I think that going with this is like the best price to impact ratio I could get. The next thing I noticed is that when doing the curved pieces, it's not possible to have connectors for both of the sides that are open. So for that, there's always only one connected. But as I said, the other pieces on the side of the map still hold these pieces in place, so I'm not too worried about like structural integrity with that. One thing I noticed very early on when designing these in the live stream was that it's quite sturdy, more sturdy than I expected. I was very worried about the walls, the sides holding in place, but I'm pretty happy how that turned out, and I stuck with 2 to 3 studs wide walls. And I think these rigid edges work very well with different styles of terrain I have built previously. So it works well with the dungeon tiles, the plain old gray and dark gray dungeon tiles, but it also works well in a more natural setting on the outdoors. The first time I used these in a map was for my most recent game, where I built this underground lair for one of the big bads of my campaign, and this river is really breaking up basically two rooms. So the one where the players enter, and then the room where the fight is going to happen or going to break out. And they are just this should make it more of a choking point to get over there, but still like casters and ranged weapons can go over there. And as they are fighting ghosts, the ghosts can fly over the river without any issue. So of course we're talking about more of a creek than a river in the setting, as it's only a few feet wide. But I still love that it's breaking up the map really nicely, and it's working very well with these different tile types that I've set up here. One thing I noticed though is I've already built a lot of the river tiles because when you build a river, you need it to be a little longer to really cut across a map. So I noticed that I probably would need a place where the river can start or end, however you want to see it. And for that, I built one tile that's covered on 3 sides and is more like a spring where the river emerges, or where the creek emerges. That's something I built only when finishing this map, but I like the design with the small plants that cover the spring, and I think that it fits quite well with the rest of the tiles as well. When covering these tiles, usually I go with a flat design so I can place minifigures on there and they don't fall off. But with these, I intentionally wanted something that is difficult terrain and that is a little unsteady if you stand on it. And so I went with the usual round flat tiles, but also these small slope tiles that could be waves or like little places where the water is flowing over rocks and cascading a little, which makes it unsteady for players to stand on, but I see that more of a feature than a bug. I also decided on going for a lighter color scheme, as rivers and creeks don't tend to be as deep as lakes or the sea with these tiles. So I included more lighter colors in here. So besides the dark and light blue colors, I also included transparent. So for me, that's giving it a foamy vibe where the water is crashing across the stones on the riverbed. I'm really happy how that turned out, but there are 2 directions I want to take this next. So one is I want to build this into lakes or like cover more area than just this 8x8 tile. I'm thinking of including little ponds or maybe widening it to 2 tiles where there's only 1 wall on a tile and you can fit them together. It kind of breaks a little the modularity where you can put everything together at all times, but I think that really brings my maps onto the next phase of what I'm imagining the system to be. And so that's the one direction I want to go. But first, I want to try out something else. And that's going the other way, going up and really building elevation into the game in a more consistent way. So for you guys that have been following along my journey, you might know that I've experimented with elevation in different videos already, usually by building structures underneath the tiles to raise them up. So for this, I'm thinking something else. I'm thinking of tiles that are already raised. And if you don't want to miss that, subscribe to the channel because I'll be covering that in another video. And I'm really excited on trying that out. This video took a lot longer than I expected because I was waiting for LEGO to ship the Pick-a-Brick pieces. I ordered some on Bricklink and some on Pick-a-Brick. Bricklink got there in 2 days and Pick-a-Brick took 2 months, which was way longer than the time that was estimated on lego.com. And I was quite frustrated because I was always struggling on, will I do the video before the bricks arrive and not have the full thing built out already? I don't like doing that because I want to tell you guys what worked and what didn't, and there's a lot of experimenting when the bricks arrive to try out the best style that works for me. So I decided on waiting, but I got really frustrated. But I already designed and ordered the pieces in the same run for the elevated tiles, so I'll hopefully get to that a little sooner than with these. I hope you like the river tiles. Let me hear your feedback in the comments. I'm really looking forward to reading what you guys think. And maybe you have some ideas on other ways to improve the LEGO maps for Dungeons & Dragons as well. Let me know that in the comments as well. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye!